interviews in Cal's Closet here on CFTA 107.9 and online at www.cftafm.com. Which is sponsored by Amherst Auto Supply, your local Napa Auto Parts store at 63 South Albion Street. I'd like to welcome the listeners of the East Coast Kitchen Party to the show as well this week. My guest was the frontman for both Everyday People and Molly Oliver, Amherst native Bruce Wheaton. You'll get to hear some background on both groups. As well, we'll talk about and play some of the music they made. I'll be your host, Cal Lewis. Please sit back and enjoy the show. The following interview was recorded at the Lower Deck in Clayton Park, Halifax, Nova Scotia. First, Bruce, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your schedule today and stopping in and do this interview with me. Could I get you to introduce one of the songs off one of your CDs?
Okay. The first single that we had on Everyday People album was a song called You Make Me Wonder.
Where did you guys come up with the idea for the song?
Well, I wrote it, actually. It's just one of them songs about thinking about life and loves, I guess. It started out thinking about life and then ended up kind of a part of a love song about a person making me wonder if it's time to settle down, kind of thing. That's the theme of it ended up being, you know.
Many times I looked at the map to see what lied ahead, to try and find another route I might take instead. I took this road many years ago, and sometimes met that end. But something said to me inside, boy, you gotta try again. You make me wonder why I run around. You make me wonder, should I settle down? You make me wonder back home to you.
little background on yourself. I know you're from Amherst originally.
Yeah, I grew up in Amherst. I sang in the choirs and everything at the Baptist Church all my life. And last year of high school, we got to start getting into a rock and roll band with a band called the Continentals.
Names sounds familiar. Who all was in that with you?
It was me, Bobby Ackles on rhythm guitar, Larry Reindress on lead guitar, Donnie Morris on bass, and Pinky Dobbin on drums, and Louise Orman was the other vocalist. I was just a vocalist then. I wasn't playing guitar at all, really. I was just the front man.
Can you remember the first time, personally, that you were on stage?
Yes, I can. It was at, I think they call it the youth group on Albion Street in Croft in the corner. And we did our first dance there. The Continentals.
How'd that make you feel when you get up there?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, we had been practicing and getting this band together, you know, and we were ready to go, so we booked that dance there. I even remember how much we made each that night. $32 each. And we go, what? That's back in the days when your father was making $50 a week. You know, like it was like, wow, we hit the big time.
The Catholic youth?
Yes, that's it.
How old were you when you started writing songs?
Well, I think I did start writing in the Air Force. I had a band there called the Vibrasonics, and that would be 64, 65, something like that. I wrote a couple songs. And we weren't really, you know, nobody even thought about doing your own songs, but I had written a couple, and the band liked them, and we were playing them on stage.
Now, you were in two really big groups from back when I was a kid, Everyday People and Molly Oliver both. When did you get Everyday People put together, and who all was in the group with you?
You're forgetting one group that was big too, Stitch and Tyme. That's when I first went professional.
That's going back a day or two ago.
Yes,
I might have been real little then.
That was in the 1966.
Yeah, I'd be 5 years old back
then. There you go, see? But really, though, that band was probably one of the most popular bands in Canada at the time. We were signed to ARC Records, which turned into Yorkville Records, who had, like, you know, Anne Murray and Catherine McKinnon and all those kind of people, you know. We were working with Brian Ahern. Well, Brian Ahern is the person that actually brought Anne Murray from PEI to come to Toronto to start her career. So that's where we started, right there. I never even thought I'd ever wanted to be a musician. They tried to get me in the group, and I said, you can't make a living being a musician. And I said no 2 or 3 times, and then they were playing in the Village in Toronto, and they said, come on down and, you know, check us out. And so I came down, and I said, well, yeah, they're good, you know, great band. If I'm going to give it a try, this is a good place to start. So that's where I started. It was there in Toronto, Stitch and Tyme.
Who all was in that group with you?
Grant Fullerton, who's from Parsborough. Mm-hmm. Bob Murphy, I think he's from Parsborough or Portapique or Economy, somewhere down there. Pinky Dobbin, who was in the Continentals, and Donnie Morris, and he's from Amherst.
How long were you guys together?
I was with them for almost 3 years. They were together about a year before I joined them. See, that's how that band became, because the Continentals was, I left the band, I joined the Air Force, and they combined with a band called the Untouchables, and that was Grant Fullerton, Bob Murphy, John York, and they went to Toronto and signed to ARC Records. And then Yorkie was leaving the band, and that's where they talked me in to go. So it was almost like I'm going back with the first band. 3 of us out of that band were from the Continentals.
Were you guys lucky enough to get any music awards or get any hits with your music?
We had released Got to Get You Into My Life. It's a Beatles song, and it was a cross-Canada hit. One of the first times that a Canadian rock band ever had, because that's how little Canadian bands were being played on the radio. But if you look back in your history, you'll find out that. Stitch and Tyme were one of the first to come along with that. And then we were working on our original stuff near the end of the band, and we had walked away from our contract with Arc Records. We tried to, and we wanted to do our own thing, and we got a producer. We were writing songs and had pretty near an album ready to go, and we released one song, and the manager came back and put an injunction on us, and that we had to take it off the air, and that was the end of the band, basically. Everybody got so fed up.
Politics,
yeah. It was a shame, really. Yeah.
Then you got into Everyday People.
Everyday People, yeah.
Who all was in that with you?
It's funny how Everyday People started, because I had the concept for quite a while. Like, when the Stitch and Tyme broke up, I really liked what we were doing, because we were doing a lot of harmonies, all these big harmony things. I want to carry on with the harmony thing, so I had this concept of getting a girl to sing. I sang too, and everybody sang, but I wanted to have a girl in the band, add that flavor to it. I tried to start the band once in end of 68, 69, and we never got out of the basement. We had a good bunch of guys, but we were just into partying too much and weren't organized. And so then the same old thing happened again. Donnie Morris and Bob Murphy had moved back to Truro, and they were starting a band called Soma. So they called me, "We want you to come down to join Soma," because we were going to do, Frank McKay was the front man, and we thought, well, we'll have this real great three-piece harmony behind this, because Frank's such a great singer. And I said, yeah, I'm up for that. Yeah. And then I came back, and we rehearsed and did our first few gigs. But then I realized that they were going in that direction at all. And I was playing congos with them and singing harmony. So I just came to them one day and said, listen, no, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to play guitar. I'm a guitar player. And I flew back to Toronto and started Everyday People.
Who all was in that one with you?
How that band started, I actually was sort of really getting fed up with trying to figure out how to start the band, and there was an article in the newspaper. They were looking for a guitar player. So I went, answered, this is Markham, Ontario, and I went to their practice, and they didn't really have any idea what they're doing. They just wanted to do a band. And I still had this Everyday People idea. I really connected really well with the drummer, mainly, of that bunch. And after we practiced for a while, I said, well, listen, I got an idea about a band. I said, if you guys want to do my idea, I'm willing to stay here. Because I was going to do that, whether it was them or somebody else. And so I told them what my idea was, to get a girl. And I had been writing songs for 2 or 3 years, and I had all these songs. I showed them some of them, right? And wow, yeah, that's great, because everybody at that time of history, all the bands were doing their original material instead of just cover music. So, it's funny, Donnie Morris came to town again, like from Soma. They moved to Toronto, and we were still buddies, and he came to see me, and I told him what I was doing, and I said, I'm looking for a girl, and he said, well, he had this friend named Pam Marsh, a real good singer, and she plays a bit piano, and I'll introduce you. So I met Pam, and I brought her out to the rehearsal, and she liked what we were doing, and she was the girl, me and Pam Marsh. And then Carson Richards eventually came into the fold. Chris Pappas was a rhythm guitar player. Al Muggeridge was the drummer, and Dave Hare was on keyboards. And then we just started learning all my songs, and we started out playing. I can remember the first night we played. First time in my life that I ever walked on stage that I'm not playing pop material. I'm playing all my own music. Very nerve-wracking. But at the end of the night, the people were just going nuts, and I thought, wow, you can do this,
So you took off from there, wasn't it?
Yeah. I had a tape recorder, and we recorded 3 or 4 of these songs. And I heard about Terry Brown and Doug Riley. They owned their own recording studio, and they had a band called Dr. Music, and the best people in town, in the city, in Toronto. And I walked in with this little tape that I made, and I played it for them. and they signed us to a production agreement. And so we signed to them and recorded all my stuff, and then we pitched he did, because that was his job. He took the stuff we were recording in the studio and sold it to GRT Records Canada and Paramount Records United States. So that was really great.
With the Everyday People, other than the song that you introduced at the first, was there any other of the songs that went real big for you guys?
There's one song on there that did. It went worldwide, and it still is, which is ironic. It's called I Like What I Like, a song that I wrote, and it's kind of a crazy song. It's like I had this idea at the intro, because I was playing congos with Soma, so I really learned a lot about that. Not only that, I was in high school. I was playing in a rhythm band. I was always on the tom-toms, and so I really had that thing I was always interested in, kind of African kind of thing, right? And then I had that idea for this intro, and I took it to the band, and we all worked on it together and put this crazy intro, and then the song. this became this worldwide hit, underground, like not really on the radio.
Yeah.
It did get a lot of radio play in New York City and stuff like that, and across Canada for a while. But underground, it just became like almost, they call it viral now. If it was now, that would be, because it still is. I put it on YouTube about a year ago, and there's 5,000 hits on it already. Like, for an old song that's not being promoted anymore. And people keep writing me and saying how much that song meant to them, from all over the world, Italy, Sweden, England, like, it's amazing. I get so many emails about that song, and then that song eventually got recorded by 4 or 5 different people. Like a band from England called Mr. Creeps recorded first. I have all these records at home, by the way, and I'm going to put them on YouTube. I got some of them on there now. I find that amazing. And then Mama Cass from Mamas and Papas recorded it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's really getting up there with some of the big folks
exactly. Yeah. And the crazy thing about the Mama Cass thing, I feel that I was not represented properly over the years. Like, I just found out for sure that she had recorded this about a little over a year ago. And anyway, like, I found out because I had put our bands on YouTube. So I was reading the comments one day, and this young kid was on there. He said, wow, he said, the first time I ever heard this song by Mama Cass, I went, what? And he put a link to it. So I clicked on the link. Sure enough, there's Mama Cass. Well, there's a lot more to that story. Like, years and years ago, in 73, I was home. I got this letter in the mail from Mama Cass's musical director. She was going out on her own after the Mamas and Papas, and she was doing my song in her stage act. I knew that. So he wrote me the letter. He said, could you send me the music and the lyrics to the song? So we sent her the lyric, and that's all I ever heard about that. 30 years later, I found out that she actually
had recorded.
I found the guy that wrote me the original letter. The internet's so great now, so I Googled his name. He wrote music for movies over the years, like still doing that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I wrote him, I said, this is Bruce Wheaton from band Everyday People. You had written me years ago about Mama Cass. He said, oh, Bruce, yeah, he remembered it. And he said, yes, she did record it. This is the name of the album. He says, nice to hear from you. So then I go on eBay, and I found
copy.
Yeah, I got the CD and the album.
After you got out of Everyday People, you moved back to the Maritimes here with another group.
Yeah, I came back. We were on tour like down here, and I knew it was the last tour. I said, I'm going to break this band up. I'm going to do something else. And we were coming through the Wentworth Valley, and I looked around and went, I haven't lived here since I've been basically 17 years old, and I really would like to live here again, in the Maritimes, to see what it's like. So I decided right then on that drive one morning through the Wentworth Valley that I'm moving back home. Probably not a good idea for career-wise in a way, but because, you come from the center of it all down to here. But we did well again. I put this band, Molly Oliver, together and signed with another London Records Canada and put out another album and kept that band together for 13 years.
Who all was in that with you over the years?
That the main band that was in that, the one that means the most to me, it's the recording band that's on this CD, is me and Larry Maillet, Carson Richards, who came from Everyday People. He was the bass player on most of the stuff on that CD. Mike Leggett and Dutch Schultz on drums. That was the meat of the main recording band of Molly Oliver.
Where did you guys come up with that name?
Well, that's from another thing, because when we first started Molly Oliver, there was 2 guys from Everyday People, which is me and Carson Richards, and 2 guys from a band called Pepper Tree. And they were a great band from around there too. Mm-hmm. And that was Timmy Garrigan and Bob Quinn. That band was only put together, because we knew they weren't staying long. We just wanted to have a band and make a few dollars and have some fun. So all we did was pop songs and put that band together. And it got a lot of notoriety because of two guys from Everyday People and Pepper Tree, two of the biggest bands on the East Coast at the time. That was for about a year, that band. And so we're looking for a name one day. We were practicing out in Duncan's Cove out here near Peggy's Cove. Great place to practice, right on the ocean. And we were trying to figure out a name. So we come up with all kinds of weird things. Well, Everyday Tree, Pepper People, combining, just joking around. And then our drummer one day says, "How about Molly Oliver?" Molly Oliver. Yeah, that's got a kind of a cool sound. And there was the name of two dogs that were around Duncan's Cove. They were Irish setters or something. Somebody had them. And Timmy put it together. And then we said, yeah, that's a great name. And then we told our manager at the time, and he did a bunch of research, and he came up with this fictitious story about Molly Oliver, the pirate. The weird thing about that was there's a certain amount of truth to it, because Molly Reed or Oliver Reed were like famous pirates back in the 1800s, and so they tied it in with that. We actually played in a high school in PEI, and the teacher came up to me, and she thought the story was true, because it is true, like the story about the pirates. I didn't say anything to him because there's a teacher telling me, like, yeah, I know all about that. I said, yeah, that's cool.
What was the biggest hit you guys had off of that one?
Straight in My Head was the first single Molly Oliver ever released. We had quite a few on that one. You Didn't Listen to Me was the first single that we had on that band on London Records. And I think we put Greet Your Neighbor Out was another one. These are songs I wrote. I've remastered this one, and I got everything that we ever did on there, which is great, on the CD. And same with Everyday People. There was songs that we had in the can waiting for our second album, and they're on the tail end of that, which is nice to have,
Is there one off the Molly Oliver one that really touches you when you remember back playing it?
Yeah, well, the biggest hit we had on there was called Somebody New in My Eyes.
And where did you come up with that one?
That was just another, it's funny how you write a song, like sometimes a song will be either negative or positive, but sometimes the subject that made you write the song is the opposite of what the song is. When I wrote Somebody New in My Eyes, I was in a negative mood because I had broken up with a girl that I was really in love with, and we were together for quite a long time, and I was kind of depressed about it. You know how you go, lost love. I was trying to get myself out of it, so I wrote a positive song about meeting somebody new. I remember the night that I wrote it. I actually wrote it while I was in Everyday People, but we never recorded it because that was getting near the end of the band. And I got there, and there was this real nice waitress that was working at the club that we worked at. I went back to the room that night, and I started writing it about her.
But me remember the good times are still all around. And each time I see her go by, gives me the feeling that I like to give it a try. Wanna give it one more try. I'd like to see if there could be a new love without misery. 'Cause when you're together, there's stormy weather, and sometimes you're too blind to see that it's just a stormy day, and it will go away.
Since Molly Oliver, what have you been up to?
I've been mainly just entertaining people, you know, like I don't even really play my own music much at all, really. I was tired of chasing that, you know, like it's a hard gig that, but I just wanted to play and keep singing. And so when I play now, I just play a lot of the old classics from all over the years. But I still write on the side. I've written a few lately, and my son, who's actually a hip-hop artist, we're doing a video for him tonight on one of his songs. He's been after me. He wants me to do another CD of my own music. So I think I'm going to do it. I have the facility to do it in. I'm going to just start getting a little more organized and just take that on as a project, you know, no matter how long it takes. I might even do a couple and put them on YouTube, really, because really, the whole thing has changed. You don't sign to record deals like you used to. A lot of it's independent, and a lot of things are happening through YouTube. I've actually put out a song about 2 years ago. It's called No Happy Ending. It's on YouTube, and it's from the heart, that song, and it's just kind of me playing with acoustic guitar and singing, no band or nothing. And it's about, you know, a lost love again, you know. But there's gazillions of songs written about lost loves. Well, that's what I intend on doing anyway. I'll never give up the writing thing. It's just I just have to get myself back into that mode, because it's like anything. You get out of it, you don't even think about it anymore. Yeah.
Have you written anything specifically for anyone else?
I've written a few songs in the last 3 or 4 years for other people, but just sort of private things. I did one for a friend of mine. His son was graduating, he had these lyrics, and I put the music to him, and I also get in on some of the lyrics, and it's called A New Beginning, and that's a pretty cool song too. And we recorded it and got on its own CD, and he gave it to his son on the night of his graduation. But I think we're going to put it on YouTube, because it turned out really good.
Now, I was asking you about whether you had won any music awards.
In 2003, they did a rock and roll revival at the Halifax Forum. It was the same week as Hurricane Juan. The concert almost didn't happen because all the bands that were on it, Dutchie Mason and Molly Oliver, Everyday People, Sam Moon, and everybody, they had to practice somewhere. They're not playing together anymore. They had to get together and learn a set of music to do this concert. And half the places had no power. So a friend of mine called me up. They had power in Windsor Junction. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we went and moved in with them, and we practiced for a week. I had both bands there, Everyday People and Molly Oliver, because I had two bands on this concert. The following Sunday, Mayans, which is basically Music Nova Scotia, they changed their name down to Music Nova Scotia. They gave awards out to all the bands that were important of that era. They gave me 2 awards, Everyday People and Molly Oliver, for events in the cause of music in Nova Scotia. It's really nice to get awards like that.
And you've also got another song that was really important there too.
Yeah, this song here, I forgot about it because it was really a different kind of thing that happened. This was 1985, and I'm sitting home, and my agent called me up, Mike Shepard. Andy Kay was a big-time DJ out of Montreal. I met him years ago, and he was now working at Q104 down here. And this was just at the time with Ethiopian disaster down there, and We Are the World and all that, when they put out those songs. So they said, well, why don't we do one down here? And they called me up, and I went in town for a meeting one night, and he said, can you write a song for this? We had a big, long talk. He said, we'd like to get all the singers and from that are in the scene at the moment and record it, and we'll do a concert and put out a record. And I said, wow, gee, that's great. I said, I'll go home and I'll see what I can come up with. So right away, somebody put something like that in my mind. It's just like, bang, I just got right on it. And I called him back like the next day. I said, well, I got a good theme. I said, the Americans did it, We Are the World and all this. So the theme should be keep on giving. Even though the crisis is not over, you always have to give. Mm-hmm. So I said, what do you think of that? And they said, oh, that's great. So I wrote the song, and then I put all the harmonies on it because I have a little studio at home called Sounds and Tunes Studio. And I recorded it myself. And then I took it back to them. I said, what do you think? I said, oh man, it's great. I wrote the song. I said, but what we're going to do here, and I told them, I'm just going to do the opening line, and then every line after that, a different singer is going to do it. So we found all the singers, Paul McCausland from Haywire, Frank McKay, Matt Minglewood, Sam Moon, just everybody you can think of at the time. Dutchie Mason, they're all on this record. And we put it out. It almost died because it took quite a while to put this together, because everybody's everywhere. So I had to bring them out one at a time. And one day we were there, we had 25 people doing the big chorus, Keep On Giving part. Yeah. And that was done another day. When it almost seemed like it was not going to happen, I'm going, wow, listen, man, I put a lot of time into this, and this is for a good cause. So we approached the Red Cross. Well, they definitely wanted it. So it was on behalf of Red Cross, this whole thing. And we took it to Pepsi-Cola, A&A Records at the time, Olin's. They all put money into it. And we made T-shirts for everybody, and we did this big concert at the Crazy Horse Cafe. And then we put it out as a single, and that's called Keep On Giving.
not enough food for everyone. We've gotta lend a helping hand if we can. Oh, we've got to help them find their way and give them back their dignity, and let them know we care for their hopes and dreams, for their hopes and dreams. Let them see the day when they can watch their children play. Let's get some peace of mind for humanity. We've got to keep on giving. Can't look the other way. No, we can't. People caring and sharing somehow. Oh, and we can't let it fade away. We've got to keep on giving. Oh, they need our help today, and you know that we've got to. We've got to keep on giving. It's the only way. In a land where all hope seems lost, we must find a way to share our cost and have a prayer for rain said by everyone. I mean everyone. We have heard their cries, and we can't let their children die. If they were yours and mine, how would you feel? Tell me, how would you feel? We've seen them in their pain. God, how can we watch and not feel it all? Let's give some peace of mind for humanity. We've got to keep on giving. Can't look the other way. People caring and sharing somehow. Can't let it fade away. Oh, oh, no. We've got to keep on giving. They need our help today. You know that we have to. We've got to keep on giving. It's the only way. What do you do when you're feeling helpless and the weight of the world has got you down? I'm telling you, we are the ones that can surely help them, and we've got to try. Lord knows we've got to try. We've got to keep on giving. Can't look the other way. No, no. People caring and sharing somehow. Can't let them fade away. We've got to keep on giving. We've got to keep on keeping on. We've got to keep on giving.
With that song, the Red Cross gave me an award for writing the song and raising a considerable amount of money. It wasn't my idea. I mean, they asked me to do it. It was an honor, really, to do that. Why me? You know, there's all kinds of people in the Maritimes they could have asked.
Yeah. How long have you been living out here in the Halifax area?
Oh, ever since 1975.
Is there anything else about your career over the years that you'd like to talk about that we haven't discussed?
Well, I don't know. We played some pretty amazing gigs over the years, you know, like played a lot of TV shows and big concerts. And we played on the Hill here a few times to 25,000 people, you know, Molly Oliver did. And Everyday People, too. We did this great concert way back. People still talk about that at Black Rock Beach. I think it was in 1971. People as far as you could see, you know. We had the crowd just going crazy. I can remember that day. And I had everybody, and they had all their hands over top of their head, clapping along. So Don't Wait for Tomorrow is what it was called. And I was kind of in shock at all this stuff. And I look back at the drummer, and I'm smiling and go, can you believe this? I'm thinking to him. And there's a photographer up above looking down on us and looking at the sea of people. And he took this picture. And then the next time we played at Dalhousie University, we walked in, and they had this, I don't know what it was, a monthly newspaper kind of thing. We were on the front cover, and it was that picture of us at that moment.
Which would have been awesome.
And I still have it. Like, it's just like, what a great memory, you know?
So those would be the two biggest places you played?
Well, geez, we played the Metro Center. We opened for Beach Boys and Maple Leaf Gardens. We did a little thing in Massey Hall. No, we played everywhere, really, you know, big outdoor concerts. Too many to even remember, but it was great, you know, lots of great things. If you want to check out some of my material, just Google me. I have a website, and go to YouTube, and I got 9 videos on there that some of them are Molly Oliver, and some of them are Everyday People.
Could you pick another song off that Molly Oliver one?
Go Back Home was another song that I wrote when I was living in Toronto, at the end of Everyday People. I mean, we never did in the band, but I was getting disillusioned with the big city and trying to keep the band going and all that. So Go Back Home is about making that decision to move back to the Maritimes and see what I could do down here.
And it's starting to turn me around. All kinds of wine and real fast women, and nightclubs all over town. Time is flying by so fast I can't keep track. I think I'll pack my bags and move on back. I'm gonna pack my bags and go back home. I might be right back tomorrow. I don't know. No, no, I don't know. You need so much money, and there's not very funny. You can't hardly pay your rent. You can't park the car on the street anymore, 'cause the lawman says you can't. Your friends are moving around so much you can't keep track. So I think I'll take my time for me. Yeah. Go back home. Go back home. It was time to go home. Go back home. I knew I had to go home. Go back home. I knew it was time to go home. Go back home. I knew it was time to go home. Go back 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 home. Go back
Bruce, I'd like to thank you again for taking time out today and sitting down with me and
Yeah.
talking about your history and music.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
Amherst connection always makes things good too.
Amherst was a great town to grow up in. I'm glad I didn't grow up in the city. I know I've lived in cities forever. I lived in Toronto for 10 years and Halifax for forever, right? But something about growing up in a small town, the tightness of the community.
The preceding interview was recorded at the Lower Deck, Clayton Park in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I hope you enjoyed my talk with Bruce Wheaton from the groups Everyday People and Molly Oliver. This evening's show was sponsored by Amherst Auto Supply, your local Napa Auto Parts store at 63 South Albion Street. And again, a big welcome to the listeners of the East Coast Kitchen Party. I've been your host, Cal Lewis, and you've been listening to Cal's Closet here on CFTA 107.9.